All right, welcome to the Quack Track. I'm Cole, and my other group members are Noah and Evangeline. I'm going to go to the next slide. So our product is a toy duck that can track and follow around a person. And we're going to make multiple ducks, so you can have a flock of little ducklings that can follow you around. Um, and our minimum like viable product is just being able to follow around a single user in an otherwise empty room. And once we achieve that, we're going to add some obstacle detection so it can avoid obstacles and not run into things. Also, being able to pick out just one user if there's multiple people, as well as recognizing gestures like stop or come here. And we're also going to have the video stream to a website so you can view that as long as with some controls. Um, and as for the form factor of the robot, it's going to be as small as we can make it. And it's going to have two wheels to drive around, and it's going to look like a duck. All right. So here's our Gantt chart. So far, we've defined our project and we've researched our components and we've ordered them. So once our components arrive, we're going to start testing them all individually, and then we'll put them together with like a prototype car and start testing the camera functionality and getting the person detection working. I'll go to the next slide. So here are some of our design choices. So our robot has to be battery powered. So we're using a one cell lithium ion battery, which will be between 3.7 and 4.2 volts. And for our motors, we're using 6-volt DC gear motors. So we're gonna have a voltage regulator to bring the power up to that. It has a 30-to-1 gear ratio. So it's to give us enough balance between torque and speed that it'll be able to drive around fast enough to follow like a person around. And then for the microcontroller, we're using ESP32 cam because it has a built-in camera. So it should make prototyping a lot easier. And that needs to run off 3.3 volts. We need to have another regulator for that. And we're also going to have the other circuitry to charge the battery so it can be rechargeable.
All right, so to prepare for this product that we're releasing, we did some market research. So the first thing we did was look for any similar devices currently in market. The majority of them were smart robots, but the market of smart robots is not quite the market we're aiming for. Smart robots are a lot more technical, have a lot more functionality, whereas our design was aimed more towards a children's toy. Um, in terms of children's toys, there are toy robots that can follow a line that you draw. Um, that's not quite the same as what we're aiming for. We're aiming for being able to track on device. In terms of a robot that can just follow you around, there's a Baby Yoda toy that has what they call a hide and seek mode, where you can walk away, and then if you press a button, it'll, as long as you're pressing the button, it will follow you around. Again, there's a small niche there that we cover that this toy does not, in that we don't require a controller of any kind. This robot is designed to just follow you around by itself. The intended market, as previously stated, is a toy for young children, so marketed at young children or the parents of young children who want to watch a bunch of ducks follow around their kid. So to look, just looking in the area, in the in the city of Evanston, census data from 2022 shows that there are about 3,500 children under 5. So that's 2 years ago, so that's about 2 to 7 now, which is closer to the age range that we're aiming for. We interviewed some people to see their impressions of the design and get some feedback. So some of the things that if one of the questions we asked was if they just purchased this from a store, what are some features that they would just baseline expect this device to have? So it's things like, you know, being able to do what it says on the tin, being able to track movements, including a battery, some sort of on-off switch. In terms of other things that we might have to make accommodations for, being waterproof is important, making sure the speed is correct, maybe some sort of parental control, making sure that the device is durable. It's a children's toy and they can be rough sometimes. We want to make sure that it can hold up to it. And being relatively lightweight. In terms of the size they expected, they wanted it to be pretty small, about rubber duck sized. That's pretty small. I'm not sure if we're going to get it quite that small, but we are going to make it as small as we can get it. Um, The age range was about 4 to 10. There was some variation, but that was the average of both ends of where they expected the market to be. Some of the positive impressions people had about this design is that it seemed engaging and fun. One of our interviewees liked the image of having an army of ducks following around a kid. And one of the other ones liked that it was an interactive toy that played back with you. In terms of things that were mentioned in the interviews that we don't currently have in our design, there was mention of making sure that the video feed is private and can't be accessed by other people or other companies. There was a discussion of having differently colored ducks, perhaps blue or green. And there was another interviewee who discussed speaking capability of the device to perhaps help children develop speaking patterns through simple phrases or develop simple phrases in another language.
So learned so far. So we studied a lot of electrical components and its functionality to decide which sensor, which microcontroller, and which actuator can be used for this prototype. And then we refined the prototype based on the usability of the user. And then we identified specific components based on their input voltage, output voltage, and power. We also found different charging modules to be used in the prototype. And now we have a clear and clarity in our project goals and what we want to what we want to do. And then in future, we have a lot of feedbacks from the interviews that we have conducted. So with that, we will be having a future goal, and we would like to go with that. And next slide. Yeah, questions for the classmates is that what do you think about this idea, and what is the scope in the market? What do you think about it? And then how closely do you want the robot to follow you? And then what are the recommendations? What are your recommendations regarding the control? Do you want to control the robot, or do you want it autonomous, like completely autonomous with just certain parental controls? And then we also need some opinion whether the robot should be indoor or outdoor, the environment where the robot should be placed. Yeah. Thank you for watching the video.